as introduced, I'm Beth Ward, so I'm the head of the Faculty and Foundation Programs at the Royal Pharmaceutical Society. And tonight I'm going to talk to you a bit about where the RPS sees the workforce moving and what we have in place to support and develop the workforce so that we're ready to take up these challenges that are being posed to us. So just as a brief reminder to everyone, the Royal Pharmaceutical Society is the professional leadership body for pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists around England, Scotland and Wales. So back in 2010 we split from the regulator, so we are professional leadership, and since then one of our big focus for us has been around developing the workforce and supporting the workforce. So tonight a lot of the discussion is being around change, about what's going on locally, nationally, and particularly in community pharmacy. And so there's a lot of opportunity out there for pharmacists, and tonight I'm trying to bring a bit of a positive news for what we have been developing to support you in these new roles. So if we think about what we do know and how we're going to prepare for the future, if we think about our patients, we know our patients are living a lot longer, they're living with multiple comorbidities, and that's adding a layer of complexity to our roles that maybe wasn't there 5, 10, 15 years ago. If we think about what we know about pharmacy workforce, we are brilliant generalists. So we know a bit about everything, and we need to know a bit about everything because we don't know, particularly in community pharmacy, working in GP practices, working in urgent and emergency care and care homes, you don't know who's going to come through the door, who you're going to need to treat. And this is something, when you look back at what NHS England released in their workforce paper about 2014-15, there was a growing consensus mentioned there that they feel that medics often specialise too early on in their training, and that actually impacts their ability to treat patients holistically. So this is really our opportunity to stand up and really shout about what we can do, what we can bring to the workforce, what we can bring to patients and the public to optimise their medicines. And if you also think about the new and emerging roles, well, we say emerging roles, there have been people working in GP practices for a number of years now, but we're just getting a lot more people moving into these roles. So then the questions for us is, what do we need to support the existing workforce? Because these opportunities are out there now. We don't have the luxury of time to wait for people to come through from pre-registration, undergraduate, right through to be ready to take up these roles now. So what do we need to do now to upskill the workforce that's already in existence? How can you access quality training? How do you even know what it is that you need to know to undertake these roles? So these are kind of the big three questions that we're asking, and we've been doing a lot of consultations with people in the Southwest who are developing some amazing programs. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on, particularly in this local area. So we do want to also develop the pipeline of these practitioners who are coming through, but in the meantime it's peer assessing, it's self-assessing, identifying where you are and what you need to learn and how you need to develop to take on these roles. And that's a big focus for us right now. So this is our professional development roadmap. This is what we've been working on and is going to be launched later on this month. So you're actually, this is hot off the press and it hasn't been officially published yet, but it'll be the end of this month. What this is all about is bringing together our 3 professional development programs that we have at the RPS. So if you think of your career from day one as a student right through to career end, we've got pre-foundation, which is your undergraduate and your pre-reg training. Then we've got foundation stage of practice, and then we've got advanced stage of practice. So the key here is for people to be able to identify where on this continuum they are right now. What kind of training do they need to do to upskill and prepare them for a new role? What kind of, thinking over a 2 to 3 month period. We're not talking about enrolling in university for 10 years to come out with a qualification. What do you need to know here and now? And how can we also make this count for your GPHC continuing fitness to practice? Because we don't have a lot of time, we don't have a lot of money, and we need everything to count for as much as what we possibly can. At each point along the continuum, there are points of being able to be recognised and being assessed for what you are doing. How can you prove to your employer, how can we prove to commissioners that we are providing a quality service, that we are able to treat patients with these long-term conditions? How can we be recognised for what we are doing? And we now actually have a way of doing this. So So this is a really busy slide, but basically the take-home message is underpinning all of these professional development programs are professional development frameworks that have been tried and tested for years in pharmacy. It's just that a lot of people don't necessarily know about them. So all of our programs are underpinned by these frameworks. So what else do we need to be able to develop and advance and be recognised for this? So it's building a portfolio of practice, having evidence to show this is what I'm doing. I am doing amazing things here. How can I show this and scream about this and get recognised? It's looking at assessments, so there needs to be some level of assessment, but is this peer assessment from colleagues? Is it self-assessment to be able to identify your own gaps in development and identify your own learning needs? And then assessment more formally to be recognised with post-nominals through either at foundation stage or advanced stage of practice. Underpinning all of this is the knowledge. How do you know what you need to, if you don't know, how do you work out what you need to know? So this has been a big question for pharmacy for a very long time, and now we're about to launch, we've developed a curriculum that covers all areas of practice across pharmacy. So what we've done to develop this is pull together experts from across the profession, from all areas of practice, pulled everything together and worked out actually a lot of things that everyone in these specialist organisations say that you need to be able to know and do to do their particular role. A lot of them is exactly the same. So there's a lot of core competencies in all of this massive list of what we need to know and do. And this is really where community pharmacy can shine, because you guys know a lot of the stuff in this massive syllabus already. And it's this opportunity to stand up and say, actually, if you might be a specialist over in this area of practice, but in community pharmacy you need to know about all of this. It's absolutely huge. And this is out there, and this has mainly been developed so that education and training providers can develop education and training that meets the needs that's listed in this syllabus for you. And then we're looking at the support. What support do you need day in, day out to be able to identify what you don't know or identify what you do know, and then also seek support, also identify where are these training opportunities for you. So this is where we have our networks. We've got a mentoring service, so you can phone up and be identify a mentor for you in your area of practice locally or from further afield if you want to be sharing practice. It's getting people together, and it's very much talking about, as we heard earlier, a lot of this stuff is happening in various places around the country. So how are we going to find out about that? How are we going to share our good practice? So then if you're thinking, okay, I'm spending hard-earned cash for myself, for my employees on education and training, how do I know if it's any good? We've developed an accreditation program that pulls together experts, once again, from across the profession to look at what does good look like for an education and training program. This might be as in like a module or a course or something even longer than that. So seeing these badges means that you know that this organisation has developed something that is of a high standard. How do you know who's delivering the training, knows what they actually talk about? How do you know that it's been kept up to date? So that's what this program is all about. On there we've got a number of accredited providers, and that list is growing by the month. And then when I talk about these experts from across the profession, who am I talking about? So we have a number of 34 affiliate partners who work with the RPS. We've also got our expert groups, our community forums who feed into everything that we're doing, so that it isn't just us standing up here and saying this is what we're telling you need to know and do. This is all coming from the profession. We're all pharmacists by background, currently working in practice, and it's pooling all of that information. So this is just a smattering of the groups that we've been working with. So if we go back to these questions that we need to answer, how can we support the existing workforce? So this is by looking at this roadmap, looking at these frameworks, identifying where you are, what your staff, what you may need to do to be able to pitch yourself on the roadmap and identify what you need to do now to either show that you're maintaining your high level of practice already, or if you want to advance and develop, then there's opportunities for that as well. We know that the workforce needs to be flexible and adaptable because we know these roles are changing. It's no longer, you go to university, you come out and then you go, I'm going to be working in this community pharmacy for the next 40 years. That's what my dad did, and he retired last year, and he was like, God, I'm pleased I'm out because I think all of these changes are a bit too much for me. But things are changing at a fast pace, but it's really exciting, and there's lots of opportunities available if we just are brave enough to stand up and take them. If we're thinking about upskilling the workforce, so that's looking at now maybe you want to go into a GP practice. We've got training, the CPPE have got their GP training pathway that's out there now to encourage pharmacists to be trained and be supported in the workplace. It's not about doing this all on your own, it's about being supported every step of the way. And then thinking about this pipeline of development from day one. So this slide here is been taken from Dave Bierman, which I'm sure many of you know, has been doing a lot of work in the Southwest to develop an academy of training. So what he's looking at is pulling together community and GP practice, bringing those closer together and talking about what integrated roles could look like and how this could work in practice. So he's said I can share with you all that he's been working closely with a number of community employers, and he's also working with a university to develop a 4-year diploma program which would support someone right from foundation stage through their independent prescribing and into advanced stage of practice. So these opportunities are available. Obviously, they're targeting this initiative at early careers pharmacists, but it is open to everyone. It's looking at getting this support in place. So you've got your community pharmacy, you've got pharmacists working in GP practice, and you've got consultant pharmacists in the mix as well. So there's layers of support there for everybody. So it's not people just finding their feet on their own. And you can see that he's listed here some suggested roles that could take place and how these people could work together. So it's a lot of really exciting opportunities, and as I say, we hear a lot that's going on across England, Scotland and Wales, and there is a lot of activity going on in the Southwest, which is brilliant to hear. So that's all I've rammed into my 15 minutes. I hope I've kept you on track.